And welcome to the Cary Harrison Files. This is your Monday night fun, your treat with unfiltered, unvarnished, uncensored, good old non-FCC merriment and mayhem. I want to talk a little bit about the show we did Friday and the callers, and then we'll get into some cool clips that say it all, clips that absolutely say it all. But let me first bring on the great Rory Penland and say hello. Hello, Rory Penland.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. Okay, enough of that. And the wonderful and brilliant, with legal prowess and fangs in the nicest way, the great Renée Jaworski.
Thank you. Yes, I'm working on the fangs. I'm trying to I'm revamping the vamp part. Yeah.
Well, you know, we love strong, brilliant, beautiful women. And so since you fall into all three categories, you're always welcome on this show for free.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I love it.
So let's jump into it. On Friday's radio show on public radio, Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com. You could probably see a clip. Actually, you're going to see something else on there right now. But we took calls after a very serious guest, a guy who's got 400,000 followers on TikTok. TikTok, which, as you know, is up for sale. It turns out who's going to buy it? Even though we know, or we're told, the Chinese own TikTok. Therefore, we must remove it from the Chinese. But who gets to own it? Well, it turns out we all remember W. Bush, W. His Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, who was famously photographed in front of printing presses at the Mint with semi-naked women, you know, with their crotches wide open over all this cash and wet money, because he doesn't take your money, your economy, you, the taxpayer, seriously. He got very rich, so rich, he's one of the richest men in America. And he wants to buy TikTok. And his political party is telling you that TikTok needs to be taken away from its current owner. Now, I know we always have to disclaim the Chinese, whatever. The Chinese own the porn apps you look at. The Chinese make the shoes that you wear. The Chinese probably made this microphone, as a matter of fact, and this desk, of course, and the computer screen, which is over there. Yes, they make everything. But when it comes to one app, well, now that's crossed a bridge too far, isn't it? That is the cutoff line. So Steve Mnuchin, the former Treasury Secretary who got very rich on your tax money, he is going to buy up Twitter, not Twitter, why not Twitter, TikTok. And who is going to help him buy it? Spy chief of the Israeli Defense Force. What a coincidence. The Israelis want to own TikTok because TikTok does something very bad, as I sound like the former president, very, very bad, very badly. They allow people to talk about what's going on with Palestine. Yes, you believe it? Very bad. So other than that, so we're doing this show. We have this guy on, James Ray, who's great. He's got 400,000 TikTok followers. And then we go to the live phones. It is absolute mayhem. Seriously, when you think of live callers, you know, now and then you get a crazy one. Every single one of them completely nuts. Wouldn't you agree, Rory?
Yeah.
Completely nuts. Like, I have one accusing me of being a CIA plant. Now, do I look like a plant to you? Do you see leaves?
Well, that's what a CIA plant would say, Cary, to be fair to that caller, you know.
Yes.
And that caller solved everything from Pizzagate to who shot Nancy Pelosi or whatever the heck happened, or the husband. He solved everything, and he solved Iran. He solved peace in the Middle East. So God bless him.
And he was actually from Iran. He pointed out that he was Iranian. Didn't he?
With
say
a New York accent.
He was an Iranian American.
I'm from Iran.
Yeah, he knew that I was a CIA plant and went on this long thing. And we almost got to Hillary being a lizard person.
Almost.
but it didn't happen. But if we had left him on for another 3 minutes, we would have totally gotten it. I had to let him go only because it's so deranged. And remember, FCC regulated, unlike this little moment we're having here, this cuckoo little crazy live stream, not FCC regulated, but on like public radio, you can only allow insanity to go so long before the general manager grabs you by the balls and says, we ain't going to have none of that no more. And I could say, but they're your listeners. But I can't do that because it's grown-up time. It's big boy pants time. So you have to hang the fuck up on these people and thank them very much for their call. And then there was a caller from San Francisco. I forget who it was. Another one with conspiracy theories. Now, a lot of conspiracies are true. People do conspire. For example, when AT&T gets together and has a meeting and they conspire to raise prices, or as they did in Chicago famously when it was Illinois Bell and then it became Ameritech and then AT&T, they hired a fleet of unmarried women as operators. Unmarried women, single women as operators. Now, why would that matter? It's brilliant. You don't give them any power to fix the problem. You get on the phone. These women, they happen to be women of color. They knew how to tangle. Obviously, they dealt with a lot of crap in their lives, and they were able to give it back. And AT&T purposely put them on their fleet of operators. So you'd call up, complain about your bill that had mysteriously tripled, quadrupled. What are these charges? What are these? And they would just go at you. And you'd tangle for 2 hours, and then you burn out and hang up. And they know that 80% of people will give up and surrender at that point and just pay. And AT&T, and I talked to a guy who used to work there, he said they made, we could change that Rethinking Heroes to maybe Flatulence, Foppery, and Fun. Thank you. This guy at AT&T said, oh yeah, we make about $1 billion a year by overbilling people. They call in to fight, and then we don't let the operators have enough power to fix the problem. And they can't escalate it because they don't have the power to escalate, and they can't call you back. Brilliant move. All that to say, I have no idea why I said that, but it still irritates me years later. So I will not teach an AT&T product. And they told me, oh, they're not in the phone business, by the way. They haven't been in the phone business since like Thomas Edison. They're in the accessories business. They sell cases, they resell iPhones and droids and little, gunny sacks and this and that, but they're not in the phone business. That's why it sucks. Your AT&T, it sucks. And they're thieves, corporate thieves. I use T-Mobile. Do you know why I use T-Mobile?
Same here.
Yes. I use T-Mobile because I was an early adopter, and I rang up a bill, which I have. What does that say, by the way? I'm not ignoring messages on the screen. I will never be a customer of AT&T again. The last time I spoke with them was Yes, right? I just have to push a button here.
Me too.
Pushed it. Thank you. My monitor decided to go to sleep, so I relieved it of the burden of that pleasure.
Because you were talking about China.
China.
You were talking about China.
CHAYNAA.
Shut it down.
Yeah. T-Mobile. So I had T-Mobile. I have T-Mobile. And I had just bought a new iPhone. Not this one, but this was maybe a couple of generations ago. And it hadn't been unlocked. And if you want to travel overseas, and that could be Canada, it's not overseas, but internationally, leave U.S. borders, you have to have an unlocked iPhone in order for it to work back then. So this is 5 years ago. And then you would buy a local SIM card, and then you can buy data on that SIM card. Now I was in Switzerland, and they had made a keystroke error, an honest mistake, a single simple keystroke error, and my iPhone was not unlocked. I get in Switzerland, I want to buy a Swiss SIM card so I can have all this data, and guess what? It's locked. It won't work. So T-Mobile was giving me 560 megs a day of free data. Now, you and I know that's one email nowadays, isn't it? If you're lucky. It's nothing. If you stream video, God, oh, where'd it go? Oh, so I just opened an app. 560 megs gone. So I keep calling them every day, trying to figure out how to unlock it. They had never dealt with this. You cannot unlock an iPhone unless you are on U.S. soil. Apple. But Apple doesn't disclose this. So the phone companies are they're calling Apple, they're trying to unlock it. Even the Apple people don't know that. It has to ping a U.S. tower or it won't unlock. So all this time in Europe, it's not unlocking. So I run up a bill. I'm going to show it to you. For $19,000, maybe it was $20,000, in a week and a half. And you get the bill, pay by Thursday. Yeah, that one. I'm going to show you because you can't believe it. Like, oh, come on, he's making this up. Nope, I'm not. Here it is. Is this it? Nope, that's my vaccination card remember when we were all vaccinated and it was compulsory? You couldn't get on an airplane unless you were vaccinated.
So luckily you weren't on AT&T because they would have had Chris Tucker waiting for you on the phone.
Oh.
What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about?
Oh,
I have no
yeah.
idea what you're talking about. Don't call me. Leave me alone.
All right, I'm not going to put you in a coma waiting for me to find this bill. I have it in. God damn it. Well,
and you know this
here
man?
Here it is. Okay, I'm going to bring it. Go around the desk. Bring it right up here.
Bring it.
Oh, wait a minute. That says, yeah, 20,939. Do you see that?
No.
You don't see that, Rory?
I see it.
She says she can see it. So
Okay.
I believe it.
Bill,
I see glare.
It's a bill for $20,939 from T-Mobile.
But in Dutch currency,
And amount due by 9/12, whatever. So I basically had 2 weeks to come up with 20,930. And had it been AT&T, they would have sent it to collections. I would still be dodging 500 phone calls. My credit score would be in the negative columns, and I'd be in jail.
You wouldn't be able to use your phone for years.
Yes. So John Legere, who's the CEO of T-Mobile at the time, calls me up personally. He says, look, we have never, ever had a bill like that before. We've had
I want to know where to send the Christmas card. Thank you for your business.
I said, listen, I am never leaving you. He said, we've never seen a bill like that. We have people on cruise ships where they kind of get between islands and suddenly it starts racking up data, but it's, $800 or something, but never $20,000. And he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to eat the whole bill ourselves and apologize to you for the obvious heart attack you must have had when you received the bill. And just know it's on us. And we're going to get your iPhone unlocked and we're apologize. And please don't leave. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm going to marry you. I am never leaving, ever. So
what a nice guy.
That's like really good corporate behavior. That's customer service. Their error, not mine, but they're not going to punish me and put me in a friggin' sewer, eating cat food and macaroni until I'm 99 for this. So that's why. All right. So let's look at some clips, shall we? I think you're going to like this, Rory. You've never seen it. Neither have you, Renee. Neither has anybody else, probably. This was live on the radio. You've watched the Sopranos before in the past, Rory?
Yeah, of course.
I've seen the Sopranos. Yeah, it's good. How you doing?
That's it. So I had on Joey Pantoliano, Joey Pants. He came on this. He'd written a book called Asylum. And it was really about mental health and what he was going through and how during the series he was like mentally deranged, but he had like fixed himself. So it's like a cool, LA type guest to have on to talk about like something real. But what I didn't know is what he had actually.
The blue pill.
Now you're getting somewhere and you have no idea about this interview because you've never seen it. But Renee, why don't you tee it up? And I mean,
ready?
Great fun, but this is like right in the middle. This is like competing with All Things Considered on the other public radio channel.
Okay.
From Hollywood, this is Harrison.
Masturbation was actually my fourth deadly symptom. You know, I discovered orgasm. I'll never forget. I write about it in the book. I'd had this reoccurring dream where I was in the cafeteria with two or three of the girls. One I had a tremendous crush on. And in my dream, I had this feeling of euphoria. And I wake up and my pajamas would be sticking to my skin. And I couldn't figure out why for the longest time.
It was a mystery.
Yeah. And then, you know, when I discovered this, I realized that not long after, I was masturbating 2 times a day, maybe 3, if I was anxious about a test or if I was going out on a date, you know, just to calm my nerves, to be able to go to sleep. You know, it was absolutely necessary, as necessary as the food that I was eating, and the other feeling that when I started to starve myself to be thin so that girls would like me, I had this feeling of euphoria and accomplishment the next morning. I felt good about myself, and I wanted that feeling, so I chased that.
You know, it's interesting when we talk about masturbation, because we can, and I will admit, I did it once in college, never liked it. Isn't that what you're supposed to say when you're running for president?
Yeah, and you didn't inhale.
I didn't. Well, I actually did. That's a different story. There is something in the brain called the rhinencephalic nerve, and it's kind of it's sort of the orgasm nerve. And it's connected to a lot of other things, much like you sneeze when you look at the sunlight. It's close to the optic nerve, the sneeze nerve. The love-hate nerve is right next to each other. The vomit and orgasm nerve are right next to each other. And the orgasm nerve does actually create
I always
endorphins.
Vomit when I have an orgasm. Now I understand.
Visit or email Harrison on the web at goharrison.com.
One of the Fratelli boys from Goonies.
So, as you can imagine, I had to explain Lucy because I thought we were just going to talk about, you know, depression, like all actors in Hollywood, because they're all friggin' depressed, and they should be. But instead, we're talking about him like coming gallons and squirting all over the walls, and it was kind of beautiful. I got to have him back on because that's real life. Because we now know that's what people actually do when they're actors. You just jerk off all day and hone your craft. It's true for you, isn't it, Rory?
Get him and Robert Davi on. Get the Fratelli boys on. So how long have you been masturbating?
Right. 96% of all men will admit they masturbate. The other 4% are liars. Yes. Yes, I've done it. I did it once. Like I said, one time. Didn't care for it.
I didn't nail.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Just masturbate. What does that even mean? Well, I just couldn't. There were no directions, so I haven't done it since. Do you believe that?
I think when you're a teenager and you don't have a lot of friends.
He says, I got to give him.
It's a given.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I'm going to have him back on 100%. I got to reach out to him. In fact, there's a bunch of these cool folks that I had on, Rob Reiner, a bunch of them that we talked about great stuff back then. And now is the time to bring them back on because this is like the real world that we all live in. Then it was so radical and groundbreaking that somebody would go on and talk about just masturbating all day long.
You need to get Clint Eastwood back on. He's a Harrison Hellraiser. I masturbated a lot when I was a director.
Especially when he did Hoover, the Edgar movie. You know,
I couldn't stop masturbating when we did Hoover.
That movie, Edgar, which is about J. Edgar Hoover, where Leo DiCaprio plays Edgar Hoover. Why didn't they have long scenes of J. Edgar Hoover, like he in real life, wearing red dresses, looking like a bulldog in a red dress? It was so disgusting. I mean, I don't know how.
Armie Hammer, always masturbating.
Yes.
Couldn't stop the kid. He kept going to his trailer.
My aunt produced River Runs Through It. And she said when Brad Pitt was on the set, she had to like make him shower. Like this was his phase where like non-bathing was kind of part of his craft. And she said that may be part of your craft, but the lighting people, the audio people, and everyone else, they're not part of your craft. So do your craft on your own time. This is a professional environment. We
go out to the river and let the river run through it. Come on.
Yeah, let the river run all over it. And here's a bar of Dial while we're at it.
Here's some deodorant.
We'll have to dig deep into actors' peccadillos, because you can blame everything on your art form and your craft. I certainly do. I don't have to take any responsibility or accountability. Well, I'm just working on my craft. Like Donald Trump. He's just working on the presidency. He's just working on it, baby. Grabbing some. Okay, let's look at another clip.
I'm working on getting some judges out of my way.
Let's look at another one. Some
happy Easter messages.
This is from the great Leslie Nielsen. Now, there's going to be people watching right now that are, maybe you're not old enough to sort of remember Leslie Nielsen in his prime, but this guy was a master of like dry humor. This was one of his last movies he ever made. It was called Superhuman. Not a movie that you'd want to see, not a movie you probably ever bothered to see. Today, it would be straight to Amazon Prime or Netflix, probably made for a streaming channel, but they used to, there wasn't really streaming the way it was 10 years ago. So they released these things in the theater. They lasted 3 or 4 days. But a guy...
$5 bin at Walmart.
Yeah. This guy, so brilliant. This is him, Renee, Leslie Nielsen to old... God, I thought I put it... There it is. Farting grandmother. So we don't see Leslie in this scene.
Okay.
It's the movie that he was all over. So they really had him almost co-write it, go over the script, and put it in his flavor. So here's a kid trying to make out, a teenager with another girl. Remember, you're a teenager. You're not an expert at making out with girls. You don't know how much, too little. You're nervous. We all were. Here's this kid trying to make out with a girl.
Confused. I know exactly what I want.
I will never grow up.
From Forbidden Planet to that.
I can watch that stuff and just howl. And I'm just like 10 years old, and there's nothing I accept it. Yeah, there's nothing I could do about it. Here's another one. Leslie Nielsen in the same movie, really reminiscing with his old wife. They've been married for 50 years, and they're just talking to each other.
After all the parenting you've done, he's still so troubled. Why do you think that is, Albert?
I have no idea, Lucille. I've taught him everything I know about being a man.
And a good man you are, after all these years of marriage.
It's like we first met. Sure, you're a little older.
Your hair's gray.
You have crow's feet.
It takes you an hour to pee.
Your thighs look like cottage cheese someone threw up on a hot sidewalk.
And you've always had a tiny penis.
Well, what does it matter when you're in love?
That was Marion Ross, by the way.
Yes, who was the
Happy
mother
Days.
in Happy Days.
Yeah. Jim Meskerman is her son.
And she's still kicking. She's still out there. God bless her.
Good for her. I wish Leslie hadn't died. I remember I met him when I used to live in Florida, where I live again most of the time. And I was on WFLA, which is a heritage AM talk station. It's where, shockingly, Rush Limbaugh was born. Dr. Laura was born. Glenn Beck was born. They existed before, but the head of talk programming was based in Tampa, Florida. So he was the guy that greenlit them and put them on hundreds of stations. And when you have hundreds of stations, and there it is, you got stars suddenly are born. And Leslie Nielsen came in. It was a golf tournament. He was a big golfer and brought his fart bag. And it was after The Naked Gun. And nobody saw it. And he would be doing trying to do a real interview about this golf match and raising money for kids with diseases or whatever, and just ripping farts during the news hour, and excusing himself and saying that he was feeling sick. And, these guys are trying to be really serious and pretending like we didn't hear that. That's the old days. Now everyone would acknowledge it because you can't pretend you didn't hear a fart. You can't. The audience heard it. You can't unhear that. It's God damn it. Somebody just farted on during the news. And it was loud.
I met him in 1988 at the National Lampoon Comedy Laugh Off in Las Vegas. He was one of the hosts. And out of 80 comics, I asked him for an autograph on a picture that we took together. I took the picture in the afternoon, and then I took it to a 1-hour photo store and came back for the show. And after the show, I had him sign it. And he remembered my name out of 80 comics. He said, "You're Rory, right?"
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, wow, man, that's amazing." So what a great guy.
He was just brilliant and terrific and ahead of his time. He was in Forbidden Planet, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, and playing it very serious. And the last serious role he ever played was the Irwin Allen version of the original Poseidon Adventure, where he was the captain.
He was the
playing
captain
it
of the ship.
absolutely straight. And then we had The Naked Gun after that, and we started a new era of comedy that we have never recovered from. Let's take a look at another clip. This is from the famous TV show Lost in Space. Now, if you're watching this digitally, you may never have seen Lost in Space. You might have seen it rerun here and there. It was originally in black and white, and it was the Swiss Family Robinson in outer space. So basically, it's Robinson Crusoe, and it competed with Star Trek at the time. And it was very serious. And there was an actor named Jonathan Harris who played Dr. Smith.
Jonathan Harris, yes.
And what was remarkable about him is he was a gay bastard, just gay as a friggin' goose, just over the top. But he had a wife. And, like most morons who are clueless about the human animal go, but he's married. Oh, that's what it is. Sure, not a problem. Yeah.
So
totally
I'm foppish.
So he played it straight as a villain. Irwin Allen, you'll see where I'm going with this in just a second. Irwin Allen, the producer, is the guy who invented a technique that we see commonplace in movies today. Never before, ever, in all of human history, until the late 1950s, had a studio ever considered repurposing film. In other words, if you're shooting dinosaurs in a certain movie, you can actually pull those dinosaurs out and stick them in another movie, and you have the budget because you don't have to go recreate dinosaurs. Irwin Allen became very famous at 20th Century Fox, creating TV shows like Land of the Giants, Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and repurposed. Yeah, Time Tunnel, exactly. Repurposing scenes from each of those shows and putting them in the next show, including using John Williams, who was known as Johnny Williams back then, who did the music, which you're going to, when you see this clip, you're going to recognize the music. You may not have heard it because you may not have seen these Lost in Space episodes, but this was Williams' first big national stage. After that, he did Jaws, then Raiders, then Star Wars, then Raiders, and it became the incredible
Lucas Spielberg guy. Yeah,
that's right. Became everything. And so, but Lost in Space was really this complex, incredible music. You'll hear Williams, you'll know it because we'd never heard French horns before. We'd never heard bells, all kinds of interesting instruments blended together. But here's what's remarkable about this clip. Jonathan Harris, who's supposed to play this role straight, Irwin Allen is so well liked by the studios that he leaves the set and tells the director, just shoot the script. And he's going to go and make the pilot for, I think, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, or maybe it was Land of the... No, it was maybe one of the
Probably
color
Voyage
ones.
to the Bottom of the Sea, because
Probably
they
Voyage to the
started
Bottom of
around
the
the
Sea.
same time.
Yeah. So he's confident. They're in episode number 9 now. It's all set. The actors all know what's going on. And you have these TV directors that are not rocket scientists. They just shoot the script and it's TV. So it's not like highly complicated. What he doesn't realize, and he trusts Jonathan Harris, who got special guest star billing. Now, there had never in the history of humankind ever been a special guest star billing. And with that, you got extra pay. Because you're not starring so-and-so and so-and-so and you're at the very bottom. He got special guest star, which allowed him to get extra money. And he also got the rights to look at his dialogue and edit it just a little. So Irwin Allen, the producer, the director, he leaves to go shoot another series, tells the director, I think it was Sobey Martin, whoever this guy was, just shoot the script. And Jonathan Harris lets his inner queen out. He suddenly is reborn without the boss standing around. And you're going to see in this clip that he suddenly becomes this roaring queen. And look at June Lockhart, who is the mother in Lassie. And, she's got a sense of humor, but she's trying to play this serious mom against a villain played by Colonel Klink. Yes. Colonel Klink from Hogan's Heroes plays a intergalactic space cop, and Jonathan Harris changes the name of the intergalactic space cop from whatever it was in the script to Officer Bollocks. Now, do you know what bollocks are?
British word for balls, testicles.
Exactly. And this is 1964 or 5 when there's censorship. Like, you just can't fucking wrap your head around this. But he's doing it, and he keeps saying Officer Bollocks and being very straight-faced and being a queen. So this was like groundbreaking moment in television, much as when William Shatner kissed Nichelle Nichols, a black woman, a white man, on colored TV with a colored woman and that was groundbreaking. But check this out.
Man.
Let's take a look, Renee, at clip called LIS Officer Bollocks.
Been there a long time.
Officer Bollocks is obviously a very thorough individual, Penny. A dedicated servant of the law with only one fault: crime does not pay.
I wonder if I should tell him.
Tell who what?
Officer Bollocks. About this. Ohan gave it to me to keep for him. He said he'd come back and get it if he escaped from Officer Bollocks. But if he didn't, it was mine.
I wonder what it is.
I don't know, but it sure is important. He said it was the key to the greatest treasure in the whole galaxy.
Treasure? He said treasure?
Uh-huh.
What else did he say?
That's all. Dr. Smith, look at it!
Now, imagine getting a little girl to keep saying bollocks during that era. And treasure. He almost screamed, which those of you not familiar with the show, he would scream and faint. I mean, today you couldn't even get away with that.
Yes. Anytime a new monster would come on. Oh, which was a monster from, one of the other shows.
Yeah.
You reuse costumes and stuff too.
This was Irwin Allen. So he made the studio, the TV studio, and the networks a ton of money because they could charge the same for advertising. He would come in under budget. But he also discovered John Williams. And you heard the John Williams music there a little bit, and it felt very familiar, very Raiders, very Star Wars. And this is early John Williams, where he composed all this original music for a TV show. And you can get the music from Lost in Space without any of the dialogue, just the score, and it is magnificent. And unfortunately, nobody, and maybe it's a rights issue, I have no idea, but you'd think that something like the Prague Philharmonic or something that redoes film scores, with full orchestras, you'd think they would do the whole Lost in Space stuff because it's magnificent early John Williams. I mean, I have it in mono because it was recorded in mixed mono. But I would, if they redid it, Jesus, that would sell, I think, because it's John Williams and it's good. Like, that's the thing you remember about Lost in Space is the music. And John Williams, of course, got his inspiration from the great Bernard Herrmann that Alfred Hitchcock made famous.
I was going to say, up till that point, Bernard Herrmann was the one who, was the go-to guy for that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and in fact, the original pilot for Lost in Space, the unaired pilot that the networks rejected because it was so dark, used Bernard Herrmann's music from The Day the Earth Stood Still. So you can imagine the power of that pilot.
Wow.
Hey, and we're going to do that one another time, maybe. I'm never ready for the show. LOL. God, she's hot. And you're safe with me, honey. I'm acknowledging it.
That's Sandy D.
Wow. I could see why you like her.
Another show host.
Okay. Let's look at another clip here. There's no Me Too on video, right?
There's a Trump, there's Trump idiot, imbecile, moron.
Ah, yes. Okay. So
there should be a lot of clips like that.
In my original foray, jumping off the high dive into TikTok, I tried this for fun. So I don't think you've probably ever seen it because it's probably my first little TikTok video, but I thought I would play, and I think it captures everything very elegantly.
Quick lesson number 1 from languagehumanities.org, where we understand language. What is the difference between a moron, an imbecile, and an idiot? It says here there is a difference. The 3 terms didn't start out as a social insult. In fact, in the early 1900s, psychologists used the terms to describe various levels of retardation. Those with an IQ of 0 to 25, an IQ of 100, by the way, is average for Americans. Those from 0 to 25 were called idiots. 26 to 50 were called imbeciles, and 51 to 70 were called morons. You see, morons could communicate and learn common tasks. Imbeciles stalled mentally at about 6 years old, and idiots could not respond to stimulus or communicate with any level of competency. Now, here's why this is important. As we scroll down to the comments of this official linguistics site, this nonprofit site, we start seeing that all the comments happen to be about Donald Trump. People arguing Tillerson was extremely kind to Trump, but General Kelly calls it as he sees it. The real idiots are the libs, the liberals. That's why they looked up to a moron like Hillary. Tillerson was wrong about Trump. He is surely not a moron. Nope, he is an imbecile. So when POTUS, it just goes on and on all about Trump. Is it right to say that about the former president of the United States, e pluribus unum? That is the question.
I just remember the Three Stooges using those words a lot. Ah, you imbecile, you. Why I oughta. Oh,
Right.
puppy dogs. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Isn't it remarkable, though? I mean, we all love Honest Don in our own way. Or let's just say we're all impressed by Honest Don. But isn't it remarkable that on an official nonprofit linguistics website, the one that's used by universities for people that are getting PhDs and masters in linguistics, that all the comments are not commenting about the nuances between imbecile, moron, and idiot, but it's just Trump stuff back and forth. How is he the common denominator in imbecility?
He is what he is. You know, best businessman ever. Best husband.
Best husband, yeah. Most loyal husband.
Yeah, right.
Most faithful husband ever.
Best Christian. You can't beat me. Got my own Bible.
Imagine if you're a priest or minister, whatever the way any of us was raised. Imagine if he were buying Bibles for $3, selling them for 59, and not a penny went to help people. It was just like right in his pocket. Like, would that be upsetting to Mildred, who shows up in her fancy hat and her, corrugated fingernails that are 100 years old, in her purse, clutched over here with the Kleenex rolled up and under the sleeve? If she found that out, would she think that was good?
Do you think that when people take their Trump Bibles to like church, other people are like snickering?
Do they actually have a big T on them? Like a cross?
I don't know. Maybe an upside down cross. Flames. The tithing comes by them more than once. Oh, you can afford one of those Bibles?
For as awful as both candidates are, it's hard to get excited about Genocide Joe. It just is. It's hard to get excited. But I was having a conversation with a military guy the other day, and he said, I can't decide between Trump and Biden. So he sees Biden as a commander in chief that's going to send his ass off to go fight alongside the Israelis, which is not in his mind a good idea. In fact, I wouldn't want to go either. But then he sees Trump as, I think people forget, like when the coronavirus came out, Trump said it's fake, and 1 million people died. 1 million people died. And then those who thought maybe when their sister just died in front of them, Jesus, why can't I say that word? Choked to death, could not
Asphyxiated.
Thank you, honey. This is terrible. And here I after my great long Jeremiad on linguistics, I can't even say asphyxiated. So after watching your own kin asphyxiate to death, hypoxia in the hospital, you cannot breathe, you croak, and you go, I think that was real. And I only know it was real because I'm feeling emotions, having been with my mother my whole life. And the president of the United States, e pluribus unum, from the White House is telling me it didn't really happen, and that I should squirt some Clorox using a turkey baster up my bum. People don't remember this stuff. So I'm like...
And then there was the second phase. It'll just go away,
Yeah, well, it's
just going to go away. The light, it has something to do with the light.
He got vaccinated, remember? We all found out he got vaccinated, and he got the monoclonal antibodies before anyone could get them. So, people forget that stuff. And if Genocide Joe doesn't do about face, he's going to end up losing just because he's being an idiot. But we all know why he's doing it, don't we? All right, let's talk about it for just a half a second. It's not that Joe Biden wants to send $6 billion worth of shiny new weapons to Israel. Remember, the United States is the superpower. Israel is nothing. It's an ant. It's not even a molecule. It has no friends. Everyone hates it. Everyone surrounding it wants it to be dust. If the U.S. just suddenly unhelps, it goes away in about 2 minutes, though it does have 90 nuclear weapons. Okay, that's something. But those 90 nuclear weapons came from where? Anyone in the room? The United States. That is our best and most favorite military base in the Middle East. Not in Turkey, Israel, where we store 90 nukes. We don't have nukes in Turkey. We have them in Israel, next to Iran, next to everything. So it's a great launching point. So we are protecting, in a sense, our military base. But it's more than that. Anytime we're involved anywhere, there's spoils. In other words, there's something there that we want. What is in Israel that we want? They really don't have anything. Now, let's
Hey,
go
man, they're the chosen people, man. All right? Here's the deal. You don't want to mess with the chosen people.
They're chosen. So that's the argument that they remind us that if we say anything or even balk at the notion of throwing money and weapons, it's somehow anti-Semitism, which is great. If you can do that and get people to go with it, it's very effective. But what's actually there? So the Gaza Strip, off of the Gaza Strip is something called the Gaza Marine. Yeah, the Gaza Strip is waterfront property and lots of it. And off of that is $6 billion of untapped oil. Now, you look at Haiti, which is blowing up right now. It's melting down. There's crime gangs. You can't even fly in and out. It's total mayhem. What are we at the United States doing about this close neighbor in the Caribbean? Nothing, because they don't have nothing there. They used to. They had lumber, but we took it all, and it's become decks on many houses. They don't even have trees, which is why when there's an earthquake, it becomes mudslides and total collapse and calamity, because even all their trees are now gone. So they have nothing. So we're just going to let it play out. But in Israel, off the Gaza Marine, in Palestine, is $6 billion untapped oil. And guess who's going to exploit that oil? Our oil companies. What is the president of the United States really? He's the CEO of a giant corporation called the United States. His job is to execute business. Now, that oil is going to have a dual purpose. One, it's going to be a permanent insurance policy for Israel because they're now pumping oil like nobody's business out of the Middle East. That protects them. Two, that oil is going to go where? It's not coming to the United States. It's going straight to Europe. Why Europe? Because that is our chess move. If you think like chess, that is our chess move against Vladimir Putin, who is holding all of Northern Europe hostage, because if they don't buy his oil at 10 times market rate, they have no oil. And oil runs everything from their hospitals to their whatever. So we divert the oil. Israel starts supplying oil to Europe. Europe now has oil, and they don't have to take it from Russia anymore. And Vladimir Putin suddenly is not ringing the register. So it's a giant classic financial chess game. But you and I are focused on what CNN does. Well, this and that, and they came in, and there's underground tunnels and Hamas. How many, I would ask the Ministry of Truth in Israel or anywhere, exactly how many Hamas people have you actually caught after displacing almost 2 million live humans, butchering some 50,000, starving with, 1.1 million? How many actual Hamas people have you captured and killed at this point? 2,000? How many? And we don't seem to have that number. And if it's under 5, it should be an easy number to calculate, even for an English major. Yes. All right. Let's go to. Aha. I think we've done them.
Makes so much sense when you say it, Cary.
Well, none of this stuff it's not that complicated. It's just the legacy media absolutely won't do its job. It just won't. Now, we know why. If you do your job, you don't have a job. Done. Problem solved. So instead, you do these rabbit holes. Do you remember Chris Cuomo used to be on CNN?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's a guy I respect. He's got great institutional knowledge, history. He's an extremely competent legal mind. And I forget what he did. He touched a nipple or said a word or did something, and they canned his
He
ass.
was the brother of the governor that everybody hated.
Yeah. And I guess he passed an email or did whatever. I mean, okay, but it's not a CNN issue. That's his own friggin' problem. And when you are the resistance, let's assume that CNN, to some degree, they're not liberal. They're just actually somewhere in the middle. But in the United States today, if you're not on the far right, you are a liberal. Even if you're center right, you are liberal. CNN is hardly liberal. But he was considered, let's just say, a more enlightened voice on there. You don't look to Miss Don Lemon to get enlightenment, or Anderson Cooper to really keep them honest. I'd like a list, by the way, of how many people he's actually kept honest. No reaction. Okay, because there isn't one.
I'm sorry, I was reading the.
Well, we love
Somebody
you,
was
Rory.
loving my Trump impression. Sorry.
So when you're the resistance, whatever that is, and you fire your Chris Cuomo, he ends up on Newsmax or one of these. What's the other one? It's another one of these like far right cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs networks. And he has no other place to go. CNN canned his ass. So you get this like
we got you a job at Fox.
Yeah. You got this really smart guy with a lot of talent whose only home is to go join the dark side. Now you've got someone on the dark side with and a lot of power doing what they want because he needs to have a job. So the resistance is now lost yet another testicle and 3 ovaries and a nipple and part of an areola. And it ain't going to grow back. So we eat our own, whoever we are. We got to stop this shit. We have to stop each other from using the wrong pronoun and beating the hell out of each other for that. It's like, that's your problem, your pronoun. If I screw it up, I'll apologize. Let's move on. But let's not make it where we cancel each other. Like the right doesn't cancel me. No, I'm not in their world. I'm not in the world of the left either, per se. But those of us who cannot punch up because we're pussies and we're too afraid and too terrified to go up to the real predators, we eat our own. We find our power going after the weaker under us. And that's revolting. And we were taught that in kindergarten, weren't we? Sticks and stones, king of the castle. Don't go after the person weaker than you. And that's what you do when you're the resistance and you feel you have no power. And it's true. You've been trained you have no power. You can't go up against Marjorie Taylor Greene because if you say Apple, she's suddenly talking about Jewish lasers. And you don't know where she's going with that and she's going to win. So you're kind of screwed. So what do? You go after progressives who use the wrong pronoun and you beat them up, chew them up, spit them out, and now you have one less person in the resistance. Imagine if the French resistance during World War II had done that, picked each other off because they didn't like the kind of beret they were wearing. You know. Anyway, I think this is important. Yeah, we just need to wake up to this shit. Like, what little democracy we have left, everything hangs in the balance and we're picking at each other's scabs. Like, are you serious? Like, sorry, I got serious. Sorry.
You got real serious.
Yeah, I don't need to be serious.
You did.
All right, I apologize.
Why is everybody always picking on me?
Right? I'm just nervous about Honest Don recapturing the White House. He has learned, he knows, he is now an expert at every possible obstacle he has to having true world dominance.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Yeah. So if Trump ends up in the White House again, how does that change the genocide in Palestine? What is he going to do that Genocide Joe isn't doing or is doing?
Well, he told us, 4 days ago what he was going to do.
Right. Yeah.
He said to Netanyahu, just get it over with. And what that means is just go in with everything. Just go in and clear cut the forest, weed the garden until there's absolutely nothing left there. and go get whatever it is you're after. Because the Israelis, and remember, we're talking about a country. We're not talking about somebody and their religion. Just when we say the word Palestine, we're not actually in code saying Muslims. We're not. It's a country. So the country of Israel wants something. Do they want Lebensraum, as the Germans called it in World War II, living room, a giant chunk of oceanside property to just develop as Donald Trump would do? No, it's oil. And of course, it's oceanfront property. So you got to kick out the people that have already built the houses so you can occupy them without having to deal with all that horrible zoning, because it's a pain in the ass. Ask
drone strikes.
Yeah.
Take care of it like nothing.
So Honest Don has already said exactly what they should do. Just go pick the scab. Just pick the scab, get it done with a couple of days. Boom, Bob's your uncle. Genocide Joe, as we know, is executing U.S. policy, State Department policy, which is to help the oil companies exploit the oil, especially during the peak of climate change. Now, it'd be bad enough during any other era, but the National Hurricane Center in Miami is actually talking about creating a Category 6 hurricane, which is unnecessary because at 5, you're dead. 6, and they've already said 6 is ridiculous. You can't survive a 5 if you're right in the eye of it, in the center of it. I mean, survivability is like next to nothing. It just sweeps houses right off the beach. So who needs a 6? But they're talking about it because that's what they're anticipating. And right at the height of that, you're going to start pumping oil. Like, what was her name who ran for president? The one who put her nipples out and wrapped herself in the flag from Alaska, who could see Russia?
Oh,
Palin,
Sarah Palin. Oh my gosh.
Right?
I'd vote for her before Trump.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. At least she's like,
he scares me.
She's a mainstream grifter. He's a swindler. And there's a big difference. He is Ringmaster Ned. He is P.T. Barnum on steroids. Every single thing he says is concocted and bullshit, and all of it is for his own personal gain. There is zero interest by him in any kind of governance. Same thing in Putin. Russia had almost 10 years of an almost democracy. Then they bring in the former head of the KGB. Surprise! Here we are, Russia today. And, you know, Putin is so uninterested in governance, he can't even run a computer. Did you know that? He cannot run a computer. So when he's sitting in front of a computer, the screen is usually black. He gets everything on a piece of paper. He's so lazy. He's so uninterested in any kind of governance. He is a KGB guy who is a torturer. He's the guy that pulls the wings off of flies and gets off on it. And so Honest Don and him have already cut a deal. Honest Don has already told us no more NATO if I'm in the White House, no more NATO. And that means that Putin gets to rebuild the Soviet Union, plus add a few more countries like Germany and other things, which is what the Russians tried to do. And that's it. And that's it. I mean, you may not get how horrible that is because it's not a matter of patriotism. It's the matter if you think you're going to do any kind of commerce at all on the internet, you can't anymore because it's all gone. The internet doesn't exist the way it does. Chats don't exist. Apps don't work the way they did. It's all over. It's finished, done. And you're going to have Honest Don telling you what you can and cannot do. He's already announced 1,000 concentration camps. What did he call them? It was a nicer word. But for people who are poisoning the blood of America. And I would ask anybody watching, listening, streaming, whatever, do you think he would think you are poisoning the blood of America? Maybe you're not white. Maybe you're an immigrant or your parents are. Like in World War II, if you're Jewish, maybe you're not completely Jewish, but maybe your aunt was Jewish. Good enough to go off to, you know where. This is what we're looking at. And do you want Stephen Miller making these decisions? There's a creep. There's a guy who could masturbate. Ugh, I know. Ugh.
Stephen Monroe.
What a piece of work. Well, I think we've gone an hour, so I think we were done. Pretty much. What do you think, Renee?
I think we're good. I liked the serious part. I don't think enough people are addressing this. And I think I think that we were all trained for this moment. I think we all grew up with the Auschwitz, the motto there that they have up there saying those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. I think we were trained. I think this generation was trained for what we will do when we see genocide. And I think we have by and large failed. When the Allies went into Auschwitz, they made the villagers bury the bodies of the prisoners to say, this is what's happening in your backyard and you allowed it. You allowed it. You turned the other way. You didn't talk about it. And we were all trained that. Americans were trained that. We know better. We know that we are supposed to be doing whatever is in our purview, whatever is in our power. And it's not just Palestine. Sudan is undergoing a huge genocide at this time as well. Ukraine, obviously. Somalia. It does, you can pick your genocide. Unfortunately, we have a lot of them. You can pick your genocide and get involved. You can get involved with the various different human rights issues that we have here in America, but do something. You got to do something. You have a voice. We were trained for this. We know how we were trained for this. So however we're reacting now is how we would have reacted back in the day. So we have to just admit what side of history we want to be on. We gotta choose.
True. Well put. It's very much like the Germans who claim they had no idea. So there you are having dinner in Germany. It's World War II, and trucks are pulling up, and a bunch of SS guys come out with machine guns and haul off your neighbors. And you're looking out the window, and you go, I had no idea. I thought it was like Halloween, maybe. And there they are rounding up all my neighbors and taking them off in trucks. And look at that. Dachau is about 20 feet from me, and there's a wall, and there's smoke coming out of the chimney. I had no idea. It's a weird smell coming out there. I don't think they're burning birch bark, but I'm not sure. It's completely nuts. And here we are acting just like that, watching rampant, real, honest to God genocide. That's if you think the Nuremberg trials were important. If you don't think that, let the Nazis come back. Let Germany be the Germany that it's always wanted to be. Add in Austria while you're at it. Let's bring back the Nazi party. Let's piss on the graves of our grandfathers who fought in World War II. Fuck them.
Yes, and let's be, and right now,
a bunch of losers.
Right now, tens of thousands, right now as we speak, tens of thousands of Israelis on Israeli soil are out in the street protesting, asking for Netanyahu to be ousted. Tens of thousands. So, people of good conscience, no matter what their passport says, no matter where they live, no matter what their religion is, they are standing up against genocide. There are a lot of people from every ethnic background, from every nationality, standing up against this. And just like Cary said, this is not a Muslim thing. This is not whatever. This is about business interests and chess games and human lives being torn asunder so that someone can get paid somewhere. Good people, good conscience are standing up. As you don't have to say, oh, I like someone from this group, so now I can't go against them. No, good people are standing up around the world. Go to social media, go to different media networks. Don't just rely on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. Here you go. Go to Cary.
No, I'm sorry. I was
he'll inform you.
My hair over and it's stuck up straight.
But also, he's pointing to another media member that you can go to. You can follow him at rethinkingheroes.com, and you'll hear more about this type of stuff.
Yeah, and support this little thing that we're doing here. Check us out on Substack. I just published a blog today on what the Ronald Dion DeSantis, who is the governor of Rory.
Yeah, he's not my governor.
Rory's governor here. Rory's governor.
Not my governor.
Ronald Dion DeSantis. It is now the law in the state of Florida that nobody
Sanctimonious.
under 16 is allowed to have social media. It is now illegal in a state that looks like a limp penis. It is now illegal if you're under 16 to have social media. Your parents will be arrested if you have social media, period. Wow. Now, of course, it's to protect them from Mark Zuckerberg. Does he grab pussy? I don't know. I mean, seriously. Yeah, it's addictive. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. But for a political party that is always talking about government overreach and the government should not get involved in your business, we know what it's really about. Why would you want people under 16 to not have social media? What is it they actually talk about on social media? Aha. What is it they actually talk about that you don't want happening? Climate change, which is illegal now in the state of Florida to talk about in the school system. The public school system, if you're a teacher and you mention climate change, even though south in Miami, the National Hurricane Center, they're now looking at calling Category 6 hurricanes. If you mention it as a school teacher, you will be fired. And of course, you will never work again if you're fired as a teacher for morals or whatever. So this is what kids under 16 talk about because they're stuck on this planet for 80 more years. And this stuff is real. And they talk about freedom of speech. And does their vote count even? And do their friends of color even get to vote? Because they don't have all of this old white guy racism. And they talk about the real stuff. So you have to remove them from the discussion, delete them from the opportunity to talk to each other, and therefore remove reality. So it's censorship. It has no protection. It upsets me. Anyway, I sent that out today, broke it all down through Rethinking Heroes. If you go to rethinkingheroes.com just sign up for our newsletter. You'll get stuff like that if you're interested in this stuff. It helps me to know what's going on because then I can navigate the confusing shoals of the future. If I don't know what's going on, then I'm a victim of all this stuff, and it's too depressing. But if you realize it's just tennis, they're just playing chess, they're trying to shut you up and silence your voice, then suddenly you feel powerful and you can navigate this stuff. So that's my take on it. So why don't we just say goodnight? And thank you, Renee, by the way, for that excellent analysis you just gave us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm liking these green graphics. I'm thinking maybe we should use them on Rethinking Heroes.
Maybe, but then keep reboot the blue.
I mean, I haven't created I like them. They just pop, don't they? And the blue is good on Rethinking Heroes, but it's just kind of blue, 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 blue.
It is a lot of blue.
I'm so blue.
It looked corporate because it's very kind of neat and tidy and corporate. But this is kind of in your face, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's electric. And David says, I am loving the stylization of this show. Thank you, David. And the logo. He likes the logo as well.
And the little orange dancing Cary.
CHF is also Swiss francs, which we could use a few of here. I'm telling you. Yeah. Well, thank you, David. And thank you, Rory. And thank you, Renee. And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. and he, her, him, she, my aunt who's 80 said, I have no problem with the pronoun thing. Like I have no problem with the people who identify any way they want. She's very groovy, very progressive, very open-minded, 80. She said, I have no problem with that. It's the grammar, having a singular item and calling it they. This single cup, they. She said, in good conscience, she's been so well trained, she's educated, that she can't call that a they. And I get it. I get it. So I don't know. Thank you, all of you, thems and shims, and people like Rory with multiple genitalia like a platypus. 2 penises that curve this way.
The hell did that come from?
I don't know.
And I don't mean the fart.
No, a platypus has 2 penises. Did you know that?
So we can, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, don't.
I'm not going to do it.
The good, clean fun in that cold water at night when you're alone with your fin.
He's calling platypus for a reason.
All right. Well, we're going to stop streaming in 14 seconds. Thank you, everybody. Just feel loved. This is fun. I love hanging out with you guys. This is such a treat. I can't do this in the grown-up world where I find myself more often than not. So this is just great. I get to be 10 perpetually here, and I vote yes for being 10.